The following presentation is really called Smoke and Mirrors because that's what it looks like when you study federal taxation when you consider transfer payments. The Equalization program in Canada officially began in 1957 to address fiscal disparities. The Canada Health and Social Transfer was officially introduced by the federal government in 1995 and came into force in the 1996 to 1997 fiscal year. The effects of the programs are basically calculated during the course of this presentation. We're using fiscal year 2022 and our data source is taxtips.ca. The effects are reasonably stable, so the analysis should materially represent what happened in prior years and what is expected in the future. Average taxes paid by the taxpayer in each province was calculated using the 2022 federal rate. And in that way, what we can do is we can break it down by province for the average taxes paid and also the amount of average transfer back per taxpayer. So if you look at this particular slide, we're now showing the differences in equalization, health and social transfers, which are the other transfers, and the total of the two transfers by province. The transfers are quantified at the per taxpayer level, as this is the level at which the taxes are collected. So you can see that there's quite a range of things that is going on. Some provinces only receive health and social transfers, and others receive equalization. And equalization is dubiously described as reflecting fiscal capacity. The next slide shows the average total per taxpayer transfer and compares it to the tax payments. So when you take a look at this, it might be a little bit confusing, but it shouldn't really be. In Newfoundland, for instance, the taxpayer on average paid $5,046, but by the time you account for the federal transfers, the real tax that they paid was $3,125. Now you can go to the case of Prince Edward Island, where they had paid $4,586 on average, but when you take into account the federal transfers, they in effect are getting paid by the federal government $1,261. At the opposite end of the spectrum, you can find Alberta, where they've paid $7,979, and after the transfers are taken into account, they've paid $5,858, which is the most significant payment in Canada. The last slide is really the average tax paid federally for federal services. So in Newfoundland, they've paid $3,125 for the federal services. If you look at Alberta, they've paid $5,858. Manitoba almost pays nothing there at $27. But if you look at it, the tax winners in the case of Canada are really Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick, because they basically pay negative tax for their federal services. Now, the question that I have is, why should there be a system where Canadians differentially share the burden of the federal government?